Hello, lovely people of YouTube. Thanks for tuning into part 2 on my series on my kind of rather complicated live set, which I'm trying to explain in detail for anybody who might be interested and wants to kind of do a similar sort of thing. So if you've not seen part 1, it's probably worth watching that, where I kind of just go through an overview of what I was trying to achieve, the software I'm using, the hardware, and everything else. So what I'm going to do in this video is go through how I prepare a track to go into my Ableton live set, prepare the stems. I play my tracks in 2 different ways. Tracks that have like a specific structure, so that might be something where I've worked with a vocalist and it's got a definite kind of like verse, chorus, that kind of thing. Generally when I'm playing those live, I will play them as per the original recording with the same arrangement, etc. So for something like that, I very often will either play one of the keyboard or synth parts or do live drumming. They're the bits I will play live. So preparing those are very easy. It's just really a case of getting up the original project, taking out the bit I'm going to play live, and then re-exporting it without that bit so I can play that bit live. So that's pretty straightforward. My other tracks, which are kind of more groove based and have less sort of specific structure, these are the ones that when I'm playing live I can make them be as long or as short as I want, which is kind of like the idea behind a lot of my stuff, and nice transitions between the two. So I'm going to go through what I'm basically doing is working through my back catalogue of tracks and getting them all prepared working my way through all my back catalogue of stuff. Well, most of it anyway. Some stuff I know that wouldn't work live, I'm not playing that, but some stuff that I think will work live, I'm getting it all prepared and sticking it all in the live set, and then it's there if I want it to perform live. Once you've done it, it's done. You know, you've only got to do it once. And what I'm sort of doing now is when I've finished writing a track, as part of the writing process, I tend to now at the end, when I've finished it and mastered it, I will then, before I kind of put it all to bed, I will do the live preparation, so it's done then, rather than having a big backlog of tracks to do, because it's not the most fun thing in the world doing all of this sort of stuff. So this is a track off my 2016 album or 2017 album called Rebirth. This track's called Mine, so it sounds a little bit like this. So it's a very just kind of very simple sort of acidy bass groove kind of thing, with this vocal sample that kind of comes in and out and various other bits and bobs. So that's a lot of delay. First thing you would want to do, and this is just make sure you do this, is open up obviously your original production, but then save it under a different name. I've got this one saved as Mind. It should say live, but I can't type. It ends up being as Mindkive 11. So I know it's Mind, and it's in live. Sorry, it's the live version, and I had to resave it as Live 11 because it's the first time I opened this one in Live 11. But anyway, just save it under a different name, because I'm going to delete stuff and mess around with stuff in here, and you don't want to mess up your original production in case you want to go back and remix it or re-export it or whatever. So yes, do that. What I then do just in preparation stuff is I've got a folder on my desktop. This is Mind Live Stems, so this is where I'm going to stick all my stems, in this folder, and then I stick all of those folders in a main folder with all my live stuff in it. So first thing really, once I've done that, is deciding what I'm actually going to play live on a track like this. So this one's got this really long 303 line in it, which pretty much goes through. You can see this is the original MIDI I've got in this track here, and this is the audio when I recorded it. So it's pretty much going all the way through, apart from these 2 gaps here and a bit at the beginning. So I'm probably going to have this playing as a MIDI file, sending the MIDI out to the TB03, and I can then fiddle with the knobs as part of the live performance, doing the filter and that kind of thing. So I know there's some slight variations, if I remember rightly, in this, just like with little note placements. So I'm going to export a 17-bar MIDI clip. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to split that there, and I'm going to export this. And it's opened up with that folder anyway, and we'll just call it 303 MIDI, and that will then go into the live set for the 303 part. So just for the sake of so I know what I've done and what I haven't done, I can get rid of that now. I'm going to delete that track, and I'm going to delete the 303 audio for now. What I then do with my tracks is I get them the kind of like the groups of instruments into 7 different categories. I originally used to do it with 8 categories, but I've got it down to 7 now because my kick is now a separate category. I have one separate track for the kick that is for every song. I kind of decided I want to have a consistent kick sound throughout the whole set. There's a couple of tracks where I have a very specific kick where I have exported that as part of the thing where I'm perhaps just playing keyboards over the top or doing some of the drumming without the kick. So, but most of the time I'm happy just to have exactly the same kick all the way through. And the kick I'm using is actually one I sampled off the Roland TR6S. I just sampled one of those, and it's a really punchy kick, and it sounds great live, and it just cuts through the mix nicely. And I know then that that's going to cut through everything on the mix. So rather than faffing about with loads of different kick sounds that I've got to fiddle about with, one kick for the whole set. And you'll see that when we go over into the Ableton live set in future parts on this video. So my other kind of stem categories are, I have one for which I call clap, which is anything that's like claps, snares, that kind of thing. I have a hats group, so anything that's hi-hats will go in that. I have a percussion group, so shakers, rim shots, that kind of thing will go in there. We then have a bass group, a synth group, a lead group, and an FX group. So the synth, the lead ones are, it's a little bit down to, sometimes I will think, yeah, that's going to go in the synth part, that will go in the lead part. So things in the lead part would obviously, vocals I would probably put in the lead part. The synth one generally will be things like pads and arpeggiators and that kind of thing. And then leads, like say vocals and more kind of top line synth things, that sort of thing. So let's deal with the drums first of all. So I don't need the kick, so we're going to get rid of that straight away because that's going to be dealt with separately. If it's going to go. There it is. It took a hell of a long time to delete. First thing I need to do is ungroup these because we're going to regroup them separately. So let's do that. And I don't know what I did there. I think I grouped them into another group. Let's ungroup it. There we go. So this one's quite a good one to do because there's not a massive amount I've got to sort out with this. So in this group, in my stem grouping in this track, there's going to be no bass because the bass is going to be played live. So I don't always fill up every group. It obviously depends on the tracks. Every track is different. So we've got a snare drum and we've got a clap. So they are going to go together in the clap / snare group. So let's just group them together. And we'll rename that. I'm going to rename it clap. I think that's what I have it named in my set. And even that, there's not a lot going off in it. The clap's just like little bits here, and then we have these little snare fills that come in at the end section. So that's the first group. We've got a couple of hi-hats here. We've got an open, close, and a closed hi-hat, so we can group them together. And they're going to go, obviously, in the hats group. Name them. And then we've got a shaker, cabasa thing, and a rim thing that comes under the rim. The rim part, I did wonder whether I might play it live, but for now I'm going to just export it. I can always change that later if necessary. So I'm going to group them together. And they are going to go into the percussion group. Ooh. Let's try that again. There we go. And potentially that's going to be it. So I've only got one track of effects. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 tracks of effects, so they can be exported exactly as they are. They don't need to be grouped. We've then got these vocal samples, and I think most of this is going to be stuff that I'm going to just play live, sort of triggering samples off the drum pads. So let's just solo this one out for now. If I play that from there, we've got this. It's kind of like main sort of lead thing that comes in and out, and that's just going to be something that I will trigger from one of the drum pads. It's got quite a long kind of delay reverb tail on it, so when I export it I want to make sure I catch all of that. So I'm actually going to export that amount. Now the reason I export it like this is because I want it to go through whatever mastering process I've got on the master channel. I use iZotope Ozone for my mastering, so that is on there. So I'm going to solo that, that's alright, and then highlight this section, and I can do Control-Shift-R, which is the keyboard shortcut for exporting. And we're going to export that little 8-bar audio loop or not an audio loop, just an audio clip. I'm going to call this main vocal. Oh, main Cox. Or Vicar, more tea. Main Vox. So that's going to be one thing that I will be triggering off the pads. And then we've got this other one here, which is... So, let's do this. So I'm going to do that. I think all of these I'm going to export as little one-shots that I can... so what we're going to call this... I'm going to call it a vocal effect thing. I'm hoping I've done enough to get the reverb tail on that. That's all. Yeah, that'll be fine. Cool. We've then got like the main sort of vocal, well, not the main vocal hook, but this is where the song title came from. Because we've got it says Blow My Mind, which is why it's called Mind. And we've got a massive delay on this. And again, this is what I'm going to take it all the way up to there, I think. Another one that I will trigger from the drum pad, so I'm going to do 10 bars of that. I'll export that. And then we've basically got the same thing, which I just pitched down a bit. So we get like a deeper version of that, which is here. And realised I've got the wrong thing soloed. There we go. Again, huge amount of delay on it. Why not? Let's just take it all the way out there. That'll be alright. Oh, I think I best just check. No, I need to go longer. Because they're just triggered every now and then, so I've got to make sure that doesn't cut off, otherwise it will sound pants when I play it live. 10 bars again, same as the other one. 10 bars of delay, Jesus. And we'll call this Mind Low Vox. So they're all the little one-shot samples that are going to be put into the that the drum pads will be triggering. So yeah, in terms of playing this one live, it's going to be knob twiddling on the TB-03 and then triggering these samples live. So just so I know what I've done everything, I'm going to just delete these. I'm not going to delete them permanently. I'm just doing it for now, and then I won't save it. Okay, so all I've really got to do then is just export these groups. We're going to export the whole thing. Now, the important thing when you're exporting it is make sure you export them all at the same length, because that's important when we bring it into the live set later on, for selecting all of them and doing loop brace things, which will make sense when I do the next bit. So even though like the hi-hats finish here, okay, we've still got this rim thing going off for ages right to the end. So let's see how long this goes on for. I mean, I'm not going to use this bit of silence at the end anyway, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to just, for the sake of now, we're going to export everything 205 bars long. So it's going to solo out the one we're doing, which is the hats to start off with. We're going to make sure this is starting at 1, because it's not. So let's do that again. What did I say it was? 205. Why is it starting on 19? Right. Because it's not doing anything. Okay, because it's MIDI and it's only starting, I'm guessing, at bar 19. Right, so what I'm going to need to do, if you get that scenario, is... I need to just convert those all to a clip. So highlight them all. Control J. There we go. and then that should be all right. Again, we're exporting MIDI, but this is why I'm exporting it through the mastering, because it's going to. I'm not exporting the MIDI. I'm kind of bouncing it down using the whatever samples I'd used for this one. So that's soloed. Let's try that one again. That's better. We're going to take that out to 205. I'm just going to export that again to the same folder. I'm just going to call this one hats, and then it will do its thing. And then we're going to go through basically the same process. I'll do this off camera because you don't need to see me exporting things. So I'm just going to export then the claps group, the percussion group, and the effects track. And that will be it for exporting done. So I'll do that and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I've exported all those 4 groupings. Like I say, this one's only got these 4 in it: hats, clap, percussion and effects. Other ones will have other things like synth and bass and lead and effects, but obviously it depends on each track. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to leave this video here because I don't want each of these videos to be too long. There's going to be quite a lot in this series, and things will gradually, hopefully, start to make even more sense as we put the whole thing together. So what I'm going to do in the next part then is I'll take those stem groups that I've just exported and show you how I put them into Ableton Live, and then decide like which sections how I'm going to basically split the track up into each section for playing live, and then with intros and outros and that kind of thing. So keep an eye out for that. That will be up. I'm going to try and get these done like every sort of week or 10 days or around that if time allows. So you hopefully won't have to wait too long for part 3, and we'll get that one up as soon as I can. If you want to support the channel, you can do so via my Patreon. Links to that are in the description below. There are various different tiers you can support me on. You will get a certain amount of free stuff depending on which tier you're on, or if you're not bothered about free stuff and you just want that nice warm fuzzy feeling of helping support the channel, then you can just do that as well. And yeah, like, subscribe so you get and hit the bell notification thing so you get notified when new parts are uploaded and new videos, etc. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in part 3.